Right, welcome back to another video. My name is Brian Hafferkamp. I'm the designer and creator at the Clark and Addison Gaming Company. And in this video, I thought we would just kind of meander through my files and what I'm working on. Maybe show you a little bit of behind the scenes stuff. Some of these things I've played some games or I've done some demos. Some I've even showed videos of, like done a video demo. Some of it I've only shared on Facebook. Some of it is going to be new to you. You've never seen any of these games that I've been working on, and sometimes people say, "Well, how do you how do you produce so many games?" Um, you can see that each of these tabs, almost all of them, has a different game in it, and I'm always working on something. I can assure you that I'm always working on something. So um, I, I'm a web developer by trade, so that's what I've been doing for the last I don't know, 6 or 7 years professionally. Before that, like with a company, and then before that, I'd been doing freelance work off and on for the better part of 20 years or so. Um, so that's what I do as a trade. And so one of my impetuses at the beginning for even getting into the tabletop world and cards and dice at all, I didn't grow up with that. I didn't. I mean, we played typical board games and stuff like that, but mostly I was a video gamer. Um, but when I was wanting to create a digital online game, baseball game, just something that I could play on my phone that didn't require me to download anything, and I'm pretty big on web apps, so I've created a few of those that are in general use on the World Wide Web. And so I like that. I like that it can be played on any device. It could be even a Kindle Fire, like a new Kindle Fire. As long as it has a web browser, you should be able to play a game, which is pretty cool, I think. And it only makes me keep one code base, and as long as I can keep uh, all of the browsers happy, you should be able to get the same experience across any sort of device, whether it's Mac or PC or whatever. Um, so originally, I was trying to create a baseball game, and I needed a game engine. So I was looking around at what I could use in the JavaScript in order to create the game engine, and I came across dice rolls. So that kind of led me down the rabbit hole of cards and dice gaming, and just totally never knew that existed. And with baseball, that it's existed for a better part of 100 years, almost since baseball began. People were creating tabletop baseball games with dice. So I ran with that, and I've used dice for any baseball game that I have ever done. So I use dice rolls, and I've used the probabilities that come with that for any digital or web-based baseball game that I've made. Um, I've I've I wanted I created the game, and it was basically on base baseball, and then I thought, well, I already have the dice rolls, I already have the charts, I already have the calculations done. I could pretty easily turn this into an actual cards and dice game. And so I did that, and I turned it into a real print and play cards and dice game, which everybody knows who is following me or if you've played on base baseball. And so I have a real desire to go back and sort of um, reshape on base baseball. Some of it is my own desire. Some of it is just listening to the community and what they really want in a game that they could play online. And so one is to be able to roll dice, to have kind of the look and feel of a game. And I think it would not be very difficult to turn what I've done with cards and dice on base baseball back over into a digital realm. So I'm always tinkering with it, and I have a bunch of stuff I've tried and thrown away, and some things work and some things don't. And I try to look at really what's working and what's not working. And so um, I went back and I felt a desire to sort of tinker with the game again. So this was sort of the last viable iteration that I had. And you can see here, this is sort of the digital version of kind of what it would look like. And if you've played it, you know that it looks something like this in the end. And then when you're building these experiences, you got to kind of build it out view by view. So I went back and I wanted it really to be more something like this, where you would flip through with your finger and then flip to the next player. And whenever you needed to change the picture, you could. You change the battery, you could. And so I set to re-establish the game. This looks a lot more like the cards when you play the cards and dice version. And then when you have your dice roll down here, and then you would have different things that you could do, including a play-by-play and settings. So play-by-play would essentially be literally showing you the play-by-play of everything that happened, because when we have it would show you the dice roll. So who's batting against who's pitching, what is the dice roll, and what was the result, because when we have these digitally, I'll be able to read these, and when the play happens, I'll be able to read, okay, the dice roll was an 11, that means it was a double. And so you'd have kind of a running play-by-play here. And then that would also be where you get your sort of line score and keep track of what's going on in the game. And then substitutions, obviously, and maybe some settings. And it wouldn't be very difficult to do ballpark sounds or dice roll sounds. Also including a dark mode, which I know, maybe it's cliche if you're out there today, but it's helpful if you're playing in the dark, to have a dark mode. That way the light's not blaring in your face. It actually has some practical uses. It's not just kind of a cool, funky setting. So this would be sort of what it looks like. You would start at this splash screen, and then you choose your teams, and then you choose your lineup, and you can reorder your lineup however you want to. Then you choose your starting pitcher, and then you would go through the process again for the home team. And then once you get there, then you get to the gameplay screen. So, wrong window. So this is where we are with that, and I'll just run you through it. So basically you start, and you'll be able to choose your teams. Right now I only have 2023 set in, but you can choose any teams you wanted to. So let's just do the A's versus the Mariners. And then you confirm those teams. It will actually go out and it will load. It'll load the teams from the same document that I use to create the print cards. So I actually have a database. I don't know if I have, you'll see it later, but we can show it in this one. So basically, I have a database like this full of all the players, right? You can see every player. It has their batting and defensive speed, and then it's got all the values that I use to output to the cards, right? And so when you output everything to the cards, it comes out in the right place for each player. So that's essentially what I'm tapping into here. It's just going out and getting that data. There's a kind of a low-level way to create a database with Google Sheets, so that's what I do. And I just use Google Sheets as my database. It's kind of it's very public, I guess, but it doesn't really matter to me necessarily. But you can tap into that and you can pull in those values here. So it literally goes through the entire team and pulls in all of the players, and you have their positions and what they, how they hit, their handedness, and their batting, defense, and speed. So you can see all of those things. It seems a little small here, but once you get down to very small sizes, you sort of appreciate how small those things are and a little compact. It is not created. This would be a vertical orientation for an iPad. So it's not, right now, it's really just mobile first. And so this is sort of the standard view I'm looking at. But basically, you want to choose, so select 9 batters to include in the starting lineup. And then you just click set lineup to continue. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And these are, when I have them in the database, they're sorted by their team, and then they're sorted by um, plate appearances. I don't remember if I sorted them by something else, but I think it's team and then plate appearances. So you have, in fact, I know it is, right? Because there's no consistency here with any of these positions or anything. So it's team first, and then it's sorted by plate appearances. So you have all the players at the top, basically, who played the most, and then you have all the players at the bottom who played the least. So these are guys who maybe you want to have them for a replay or something like that, because the idea is that you would be using this alongside a score sheet, playing an actual game. And maybe it'll speed up your play just a little bit, maybe not, I don't know. But it would at least allow you to play on base online without any sort of cards or dice. So you choose your 9, and then you go to set your lineup. Then you can drag and drop the players to reorder them. So it's literally just, you want Seth Brown to lead off. I would probably put Ruiz there, and this guy, and maybe this guy. And so, you just set your lineup however you want to. Maybe Jace Peterson gets in here instead of Tony Kemp. And then you set your batting order. And then you need to set your visitor starting pitcher. So you simply highlight the pitcher, the player that you want to put into the game. So let's put JP Sears. You can see their stamina and their FIP here. This is actually going to be their Sierra. I should probably change that. So it would be FIP/Sierra. So for older seasons, it would be FIP. And then you set your pitcher. And so now your lineup is all set. You won't ever be able to see it because it's tucked away here, but your starting lineup is here. You'll be able to see this is Seth Brown. So your starting lineup is here, and your pitcher is here. And so he's all set, JP Sears. And so those are sort of hidden away in the game. I'm going to use those two things in the HTML to draw them out and fill in these cards as we go along. So it's kind of a ghost, a ghost repository, I guess, in some ways, to just kind of hold your lineup and hold your starting pitcher. That way I can use that as the database instead of having to go back and go to the entire roster every time. So you do the same thing for the starting lineup: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. If you accidentally do 10, it'll tell you too many players are selected. I would make this a little bit more. This is just the system way of doing that. If you have too few, it should also tell you not enough players are selected. And so you have 9, and you're good to go. Then you can obviously reorder here. Teoscar maybe is there. J.P. Crawford leading off, and maybe Cal Raleigh is there. I don't know. Kellenick. I'm not sure who would be batting where. But then you set your batting order there. You set your starter, so Castillo for the Mariners. And then the game is ready to start. And so basically, I'm finished with this part and on to the gameplay views. So that's, kind of where that stands. And there's a lot more to be done. But to me, the most difficult part is going to be the part I just did, which is roster management. Excuse me, and doing the other parts I've done before in different versions of games that I've made online. I made so many different versions of online games and started and stopped, and I figured out a lot of stuff along the way. So it doesn't take too much time to spin up some of these things. But roster management, just thinking through when you create a program or you write code, you are essentially, you have to tell the computer everything. There's no inference. On a desktop or your You've got cards in front of you. There's a lot of things that your brain fills in or does. Um, you reach for something and you don't have to necessarily think about it. But when you flip through a card, take it off, put it here, take this one, put it away. Like you have to tell the computer every single step, and then you got to create the step for them to do that. So it's not always super easy to make things intuitive or um, to make them smooth. So if you've ever wondered, why is dealing with a computer so difficult or a software program, it's because you have to tell the computer every single move that it's going to make. Not only how to think, but what to think and when to think it, and also how to move and what should be done. And you got to take this thing and label it right and put it over here. And so there's a lot of different moving parts that are there. You can see all the code that I use here. So that will be something maybe, hopefully by baseball season, I'd be just ready to release that. And like I said, once I connect into multiple seasons, you'll just be able to choose the season, and then it'll automatically populate all the teams in that season. And then when you have the season and the team, then when you select the lineups, it'll just go out to the appropriate database, quote unquote database file, and then it'll pull all those players in based on which team you chose and which season. So it's that's how it's supposed to work. We'll see. We'll see how it works. Just doing one season and having that be able to be played will be great. Then you just have to figure out, how do I do this for multiple seasons? So do I need to create one giant database? Do I create multiple versions of the game? It just becomes exponentially more difficult to figure those things out. All right. So if you have any questions about that or comments, leave them down in the comments section. Another thing that I've kind of gotten back on is a game that I've called tentatively Play Action Pro Football. This is actually where No Huddle Football originally wound up. This is sort of the graveyard of the original version of No Huddle Football. And I don't know. This is kind of where it started here. So you had sort of offensive plays. So you have a run to the middle outside. You have passes, different kinds of passes and runs. And then you roll. You roll to see which of these comes up. It's a little bit of a stratomatic type of idea, even if it's not necessarily an execution. So you roll basically to see which of these pass play or which of these plays comes up, or you could choose. You can say, this time I'm going to run a short pass, and then you roll against your team's short passes. If it's a 14, then you roll 2d6s, add them together, and then that is how much. So it can be anywhere between 2 and 12 is the amount of yards that you gain. So there's a ton of variability in this game. A lot of variability you can see down here. There's, just any combinations of d6s and d10s. Basically, you need 2d6s and 2d10s to play the game. This was the original concept for the auto offensive play calling and the auto defensive play calling. So basically, the first roll would be a 1 to 10 to decide which play you're running. So you would, it's first and 10, you're going to use this column here. If it's first and 15, you're going to use this column here. Second and 10, second and 15, third and 10, third and 15, and then fourth down and 1 to 5, or fourth down and long, right? More than 5 yards. So you would use this, and then you would roll another d10 for the defense, and then the defense is playing by the same rules. So it's first and 10, and you roll a 4. They're going to be running a 4-3 defense. Now, there was too much variability for actual teams in this, so you'll see how that's kind of changed on the way. Now, if the roll, well, that's getting ahead. There's a defensive effect So if the play is run to the middle, and then you run it against a blitz, which I had, like here, then the offense there would be a defensive advantage. So a minus goes to the defensive advantage, a plus would go to the offensive advantage. So if you run a draw play against a blitz, then that is an advantage to the team that runs the draw play. So it's why you run a draw play, right? You get them up the field and then you run up through the middle. So there's a little bit of an advantage there against different types of plays. So you run a screen against cover two, that's going to be an advantage. If you run a run up the middle against a prevent defense, that's going to be an advantage. So it just depends on what you're running, and then the interplay between the offense and defensive play gives you some sort of effect, right? And now you take that effect and you apply it to this chart here. So let's say you're running a draw play against a blitz. So you have a draw against a blitz, that's a +2. And then when you roll here, let's say your roll is a 13. Instead of a 13, which would be to the draw play, a D10, it's going to be a +2, so it's a 15. And then now instead of a D6, it's a D6 +8. So you can see that there, as you go this way toward this end, things get better for the offense, and as you go this way toward this end, it gets better for the defense. So the pluses and minuses move this up and down. So you can see how a negative number would move you this way, and a positive number would move you this way. So negative numbers are good for the defense, positives for the offense. If you rolled a 20 and you had a +2, that makes it a 22. Obviously, you're off the chart. So then you would roll here, and then that would be, actually, it would be flipped around. So it would be to the offense's advantage. So a 20 plus would be a penalty on the defense. So then you roll. For the penalty on the defense, something, I had it right. Okay. So these are defensive penalties: face mask, horse collar, etc. And these are plays that would be good for the defense. Okay, so there would be a fumble in here, or a sack, or an interception, or whatever. And then if there was an interception, you would roll on this chart to see what was the result. So it could be the line of scrimmage +20, so they catch it downfield and don't return it very far, and so it's the line of scrimmage +20. Or maybe they do return it back. So they return it from the line of scrimmage minus whatever your D10 roll is. So let's say maybe they return it 6 or 8 or 10 yards. And then these are big ones. So if D10 times 2 is 2 D10s, and then you don't add them, you combine them. So like a 3 and a 2 is not a 5, it's a 32. So it becomes a big return. And then you have the same thing for if there's a fumble on a different kind of pass, then you have that here. So this was how it all started out. Then we get a little more detail in the offense and defense. This was trying to figure out some of the defensive effects. This is getting us closer to where we wound up now. So you have auto defense. I originally had for a 1 to 6 roll, and then a 1 to 10 for the auto offense. And then you had all these different plays. After a gamer who tried it and played it a little bit, he gave me some pointers, and he said, really you don't need 10, you just need like a 1 to 6 for the offensive plays. So this is kind of the quote-unquote final version. Also, what I switched over was instead of having one team playing multiple types of defense, which is not realistic in today's NFL at least, they might play the nickel, they might play the dime or the prevent, but their base defense is not flip-flopping from a 3-4 to a 4-3. They're not often going to be doing that in the same game. Their base defense is going to be a 3-4 because that's what they run. And when you see in the team cards here, these are the final team cards, you can see their base defense is listed for each team. So you can see, I went through, I don't remember where I found that, but I found that online, every team's base defense. So maybe you run a 3-4, maybe you run a 4-3. Those are the two defenses that people run. So if you get base, then you would be, and your defense is a 4-3, you'd be looking in this column. If it's a base blitz, then you would be looking in this column. If you run a 3-4, then you're going to be looking in these two columns. If you run a 4-6, which I don't know if anybody actually does, but those will be here, listed here as well. And then you have your defensive effects that you apply again to the play. And then there's also, goal line is a special situation. So with goal to go, so inside the 10-yard line or the opponent's 10-yard line, you would use these. So there's no deep plays or anything like that. You're talking, mostly short passes, screen passes, inside, outside runs, that kind of thing. And then here you're not going to run a prevent when you're inside the goal line. You're going to run a goal line defense. And so kind of required some different thinking for the goal line. And what I typically do is I will print this, the goal line on one page and the normal play calling on the other page, and then simply flip it whenever you get into a goal line situation. But most things are going to come off of this normal play calling. And then we have special plays here. So kicking, we have our offensive and defensive penalties, punting. There's a coffin corner punt for when you're inside the opponent's 50, but you still want to punt. So you're at the 47-yard line and you want to punt, but you want to try to pin them in down to the, the goal is, inside the 5. So that's what you're looking for here. And then if the punt is blocked, then you have some options here to see what happened on the block punt. For a fumble on different passing plays, you see here either a run or a screen pass, and then you have short and medium pass plays. So if there's a fumble on a pass, you can figure out what to do. Same thing with interceptions for the different types of plays. You have kickoffs and kickoff returns. Basically on a kickoff, you roll, I like to have color coordinated D10s. Actually, all the dice I like to color coordinate. So 1d6 and 1d10 the same color, and that matches the team color. It just helps me remember, which team is which. And then you would roll two d10s. You can roll one for the kickoff and then the other for the return, or you can just roll a d10 twice, and then you would have the kickoff first and then the return, either one. And then there's even an onside kick here. What I don't have is a Hail Mary, which would be helpful as well. I also created these little formation cards if you wanted to play against another person. So you would, normally with the auto play calling, it's easy because you just roll the dice and look and you're just remembering, or you look at the dice and they still are there, so you're looking and you're seeing what the play call is. But if you're playing against another person, you would want to only allow that person to see what you're doing as it happened, I guess. So you would be choosing, basically. And then as you're choosing, it would kind of give you a little bit of a guide as to when to play these and what are going to be your strengths or weaknesses against these defenses. And that's really reflecting this chart here, the defensive effect chart. So it would just give you a little bit of opportunity to put these cards down, and tells you a little bit more about each play and what they might do well against, what they might not do so well against, to help you to choose. So that was just a little thing that I did that I don't know if I ever really shared much with anybody. This is an early version of some of the extended rare plays and things like that. Just kind of working them out. These are the original first cards. that I had. So this is no huddle, so it did include the team attributes, and it included all these team ratings. So if you're familiar, you played no huddle football way back in the day when I first started, you'll recognize some of these as the values that you would use in no huddle, like this whole section here would have been used with no huddle. And then I also took each team's effects and I put them there. I don't think they're different. I think they're all the same, which led me to take them off and put them on a single sheet. But then you can see that each of these teams, I don't know, I don't think they're different, but I did wind up going through and making each of these charts specific to each team, which is why this game never got off the ground, because it's very specific, but boy, it's a lot of work. There's another reason too. You have your kicking chart here that you can use for extra points, and then for your different types of kicks, and then you have your penalties. So this and this have been moved off the chart, and so these are the final looking team cards. So you have your team, you have your individuated play chart for this team. Not only are the incompletions and all those kinds of things individuated, but the if you go through, all of these numbers are going to be different as well. So some of these numbers, like 5 yards and 6 yards, are going to be different between different teams. You also have an offensive and a defensive advantage roll. So the best offenses get a +2, the better offenses get a +1, and then I don't remember if I had any negatives. I don't think I have any negative ones. I think they're maybe they're all +1 or 0. I can't remember. I'd have to look through the data again. But basically, you get a +1 if you're good, you get a +1 if you're good on defense. And then that +1 is added to your roll here. So like I said, the pluses are good for you here, and the minuses are good for bringing you this way. So if you're a +1 on the defense, that means you really are a -1. So, because it moves you this way. So playing a team that's a +1 on offense and a +1 on defense means those basically cancel out, and you don't have to think about that anymore. But San Francisco has an advantage on defense, so they would subtract 1 from their roll as a part of this roll. You can also see that I kept the attributes here. So each team still carries their attributes, and these are marked out in the guidebook. So if you're top 10, I think, in the league on third down percentage or in time of possession, which this is 2022 season, not 2023, so not this year, but the one before. And maybe you're the best top 10 in red zone percentage, you would get another +1 on the offense when you get into that situation. There's also there's a clutch. So clutch situations are laid out in the game guide. And so you get an extra +1 in clutch situations. And that basically is based off of game-winning drives. So does your quarterback lead you on game-winning drives, and you would get an extra boost at the end of the first half and the second half. And then we still have all of our no huddle options here. So you'd still be able to play no huddle with your offense and defensive ranking, plus all of these. These are your breakdown of passing plays to rushing plays. And then you have, whenever you kick a field goal, and then you have your clutch, your attributes. And then the other thing that I added was a player finder. So you can see for rushing, receiving, sacks, interception, and pass deflections or defenses, like a pass defended. Once that happens, so let's say you have a pass defended here. It's a medium pass, and the roll result is a 5. Then you can roll your 1d6, and you can find out who made that pass deflection or defense. And this is based off of their real percentages. Jalen Ramsey for the Rams is great. And so half of all the pass deflections were to him. These two guys both had a lot of interceptions compared to these two. And so it's more about percentage of what the player did. So you got Aaron Donald and Floyd and that type of thing. Sorry about that. I had to pause, so I'm not exactly sure where I was. But basically, this is just a player finder. You can also use it for defensive plays, so you can see. And this is based off of snaps played, percentage of snaps played. So you have your main players here, and then on offense, same thing. You have your main players here for penalties. So when there's a penalty or there's a tackle for a loss, you could use that defense for the tackle for a loss and either one for a penalty. It's not totally accurate because it's not based off of which player had the most penalties, but it's just possibility because they're on the field more. Okay, so those are the cards, and this is really the last. Here's a good example. So I thought it was trying to see if there's examples of teams that are different. Maybe I had that somewhere else. Yeah. I'm not seeing the difference between them, but they are different on the final cards with the just the amount of yards and all that kind of stuff. And the way I know that is this handy dandy sheet here. So this is what I'll work off of. This is sort of the sheet, and then I can manipulate the rolls here and change the rolls, and then it gives me different percentages down here, so I can kind of figure out passing yards per completion for the team, completion percentages, that sort of thing for the team that I'm working on. So it's kind of a worksheet of sorts, and then I have some different numbers that I work off for different things. So yards per attempt, yards per game, fumbles, that type of thing. So this is a potentially new version of it, maybe, that would be based off of a 1 to 12 instead of a 1 to 6. So would allow for more players to get in here, but also would just generally take up a lot of room. So these are the okay, so you can see here, these are the new cards. So you can see 1, 2, 3, 4 interception possibilities for Miami, but you only see 3. There's a sack at the 2 roll for New England, but there's an interception here. So Mac Jones was throwing more interceptions than Miami was. You can see here that sack is at a 3, a roll of a 3, which is more common, and the interception is less common. So if you go down through these numbers, you'll actually see some differences there as well. But they're very small. The differences aren't super huge. It's usually with things like this, where there's static numbers. But you see all the players. Excuse me. So I was playing... I played Jacksonville at Indianapolis. So I played Jacksonville at Indianapolis, and it was 27-13. Jacksonville won 27-13 at Jacksonville. So 336 yards, I think, for Trevor Lawrence passing, and they only had about 80 yards rushing. And then for Indianapolis, they were a little bit more even, so 145 yards rushing and maybe 260 yards passing, something like that for Matt Ryan. But he had a couple of interceptions, which he has an interception at a higher rate here and here than a lot of the other teams. So this interception moved to a higher rate, and so did this one for the Colts. You can see. So it played out, I think, like it should. Um, seemed like both teams felt like that was their identity. Indy ran the ball really well. I think he had like 6 yards a carry or something like that. And Jacksonville didn't run it as well, but they threw the ball all over the place, which was, you know, per their MO. So those are the teams there. And like I said, I just worked my way down through. I'm at Kansas City, I believe. So starting the AFC West is where I would be here. Uh, don't know if I've actually. I guess I started Kansas City, um, but I'm not. I think I must have finished. No, those guys are all. Yeah, that's not Kansas City's players here. So these are. I think it was San Francisco I was using as the template. So these are all San Francisco's players. So I partially got through Kansas City. I'd have to go through and restart this card basically. It looks more like all they have is the header for Kansas City. So that game is in process. I think every time I go back and I think, well, how can I make a football game better? I totally start from scratch, right? I think about a football play, and I think about what you're doing, what is the offense and the defense doing, and I just really think through it systematically, what's happening with play calling and some other things. And honestly, I just keep coming back to this game. So when I think through it and I draw out everything, and I think, oh, well, but advantage on defense and offense, and how do you separate teams, and how do you do the different parts of it? It literally comes back to this game in my mind, and I can't get off of this game. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to finish it and release the game. The game is a lot of fun. I think it's a lot of fun. It plays. I think I timed myself at about 50 minutes for the second half of this game that I told you between the Jaguars and the Colts. Uh, so that brings it in under 2 hours, um, and that's keeping team stats, but not doing any of that's not keeping any of these individual players, like doing the player finder for everything. If you did that, it'd probably tack on an extra 10 or 15 minutes. So I think it's it's play by play, but I think it would play really well, actually, um, for a lot of people. So that's something I'm working on. The next one is on base 1871. So trying my hand at more than dead ball. We're talking like this is the first year of recorded professional baseball. And so I've created pitcher and hitter cards. You can see their stamina is off the charts. And mostly because you see here, Fort Wayne had one pitcher. His name is Bobby Matthews. Cleveland had two. Chicago had two pitchers. They had a starter and a guy who would come in and mop up. Or maybe this guy got hurt a little bit. I'm not sure. He pitched in 28 games. He pitched in 3. So maybe he just kind of came in at some point and filled in those final games, right? The New York Mutuals, they had 3 pitchers, so they were spending a lot on their pitching staff. But this guy could go 57 batters, which is probably going to get you through a game, I would think. The Athletics had quite a few guys. But it's really super interesting going back and looking at these pictures. Look at these FIPs. These are not exactly no runs scored. I mean, they're all 4 or 5 on their FIP. So very interesting to look at this and to do these. And then you got All of your base running and defense and speed values, so the batting, defense, and speed, our main three values, are actually presented in 1871. So they're figured for 1871. So I could actually use those values to do very, very old school baseball. And you can see there they didn't have a lot of at bats. They weren't playing a lot of games, 30 games or something like that. So it might be interesting and very fun. It's not very many players, so I don't know. Where is it here? It's like 100 and some players. 116. Sorry about that. I had a sneeze. There's only 116 batters, so and there's not very many pitchers. I don't know. 20 pitchers. So the rosters are very small, but might be a very interesting way to kind of get into on-base baseball using very old players. So, and then right now I'm working on creating the game engine chart for this 1870s, and so this is kind of how I do that. So I run however many, I find out the average plate appearances, and then I figure out the average of each of these statistics. This is what I've done since the very beginning with on base, so you can get a little insight into how the cards are made. This represents for the 30 plus batting runs player. So the average player had 343 plate appearances, 2 home runs, 8 triples, 23 doubles, and 91 singles. They averaged 11 walks and 9 Ks. So I'm matching their percentages. I find those generally. That's Sierra. So I generally find all that information out here and just go through everything. I find the totals, I find the averages, I find the percentages, and then I try to match that with the player creator. I have my roll percentages here. So generally, if it's a double, it's 2.78 is the theoretical percentage, 5.56 is the theoretical not doubles percentage when you have a 2d6 dice and you're doing low dice and then the high dice. So I lay out my plays here based off and I'm trying to hit these percentages, right? So these are the averages for this type of player for 30 batting runs. And then I also have the 10 to 30, I have minus 5 to 10, and then I have a lower, less than minus 5. So I have this player creator for each one. So I'll go through and I'll get the averages for each of these types of players. And then down here, this is looking at my percentages up here. And basically I do an average. I do this once and then I do it twice. And then I take an average. And so I'm basically playing off of the average of these two just to kind of even out the swings up and down a little bit. If I did this 100 times, it would be more accurate, but probably not that much more accurate than doing it 5 times. So just to be honest with you, because you get basically what you're supposed to get here. This is almost exact. These are almost exact. You get a little bit of variation in here. Some of these are 6. If I did 1,000 rolls instead of just 2 times 343, then I would get, these would be almost exact. Actually, you probably do more like 10,000 rolls. But basically down here, if I'm using this right here, my outcomes here, using this average roll, it gets me these percentages. And so you can see for home runs, 0.58, I'm at 0.87. Triples 2.36, 2.33, 26.24, 26.53. So I can get it where I can work these out pretty well. And really what helps a lot is these split percentages here where you can do splits, so a double or a triple. and then I can do a percentage of a percentage, which I use a calculator online to find that out. And then that really helps me bring in more granularity into the players. And then you can see their key stats here. So 886 OPS for these players. Strikeouts are almost exactly the same. Well, they are 262. 306 is almost the same as 321. Doubles are almost exactly on, and triples almost exact as well. So I'm within a percent and a half. I feel pretty good about that. I try to get it, whittled down as close as I can to these actual percentages. And again, these are averages, so we're averaging a 30 plus batting runs player. That's why sometimes you run out with guys who are, they're 34 batting runs, and then you guys have guys that are like 68. Obviously, they performed at a different level, although they're both in the stratosphere. But I think if you're replaying their season, you can't replay it exactly. You can't make them a 64 batting runs exactly. So I don't try to do that. If you wanted to go through the cards and manipulate them so that so-and-so had a higher home run percentage or something like that, you certainly feel free to do that. The game is there for you to make it whatever you want to make it. And in fact, I try to include at the end these empty batting cards. I try to give you a whole sheet of batters and pitchers. So if you wanted to copy them off and just create your own, you could do that. Like you wanted to use these and just make your own for Nolan Ryan or whatever outlier that you want. You can just write them in with a pencil or a pen and make your own card if you wanted to. I want to always include that for gamers to be able to take that to the next level. But this is generally how I do this. So then I do it for these guys who are kind of second tier, and then the average players, and then I have this. I've done this for every decade that I've created a game engine chart for. And once I figure out the decade, I can just use that for 10 years worth of players. So that's my what I'm doing together with that. I also created and kind of hinted at this not too long ago. What I'm calling a real Strat clone. This is kind of where it all started out, and just making some different calculations and stuff like that. But this is the initial card for pitchers, and then this is the initial. No, that's pitchers. So this is the initial pitcher card. Basically, you have a 5, 6, 7, 8 roll. Let's do the demo cards together. You can see them. So this is the batter card, and this is the pitcher card. You can see the batter results and the pitcher results. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5, 6, 7, 8. So you'd have a D8 roll, and then you have a 2D6 roll that plays out just like on-base baseball, right? You take the lowest number first, and then there are 21 results. So you have 8 times 21, which is 168 results possible for every at-bat. And then basically these are the results. So if you rolled a 1, that's off the batter card, and then you rolled a 23, then you would come down from your 1 to the 23, and the result is a strikeout. If it was a fly ball and the batter was a right-handed batter, then that's a fly ball to right field. Actually, it's right center field. That's what the 7 means. And then this one is a left-handed batter. He would hit a fly ball down the right field line. So a little bit different there. Both of these guys hit a single to center field. On this one, if it was a 2 and a 16, a right-handed batter would pull that down the left field line. A right-handed batter or left-handed batter pulls it down the right field line for a single. Now these are significant for base running, but and also trying to just kind of get quality of hits. But obviously, if you want to bring in a particular hitter, you want them to be able to maybe hit the ball to the right side if they're a left-handed batter or something like that. So if you're a pitcher, then this would be what kind of batter are you facing. So left-right is always what batter are you facing. And then over here for the pitchers, there's a balk, there's a hit by pitch, there's a wild pitch, there's a few other results. And then for some of these, it's just a ground ball to second base, ground ball to shortstop. There's no strange. Here, that's a ground ball pulled to the shortstop or pulled to the second baseman. And then this was a concept for some advanced cards, just thinking about just making contact, like what kind of contact. So not saying it's a single, a double, triple, a fly ball, a ground ball, whatever it is. So there was contact made and no hit. There was contact made and a hit result. And then you have to roll for what type of hit result. So that was a concept. I reworked these cards here to work like this, which I wonder if it would be easier to do player individuated cards like this, because then I would be able to use their percentages here to fill in. I don't know if that's easier to read or easier to tell, whatever. The percentages all basically work out the same. It's just laid out differently. I personally like the look of this better because it feels more busy and it makes more sense when I just look at it. Then I have some base running and fielding charts that I put together. So stolen bases and extra bases. Whenever you have extra bases, that's really when like a fly ball to right field 7, that's where that would really come into play. So if the ball is not, if it's hit to right field, then maybe you have a little bit of extra whatever for tagging up. If it's not hit directly to the fielder, so if it's not hit to right field 8, which is straight at the right fielder, then you add 1 to the base runner's speed value. So a right field 7 would be like a right fielder running into the gap to try to make the catch in the gap. He's got to stop himself. He has to plan. He has to throw, right? So the base runner at second base who wants to go second to third on a fly ball should have an advantage, just because the fielder is not just standing there lining up, getting ready to throw, getting all his weight behind him. So that's a concept there. And then this is based off of a player's speed, which I just figured it out from, going to Fangraphs or whatever, whenever I was playing a couple of players, playing a couple teams. There are error checks that you can do on every play, or you can wait until there's an error, and then there's some double plays. So these are the formulas to figure out this number here. So the player's speed minus the double play battery, basically, right? The fielder who makes the catch, and then the fielder who turns the double play. So you add those together and you subtract that from the player's speed, and that should give you the correct column for you to roll against. And then you just roll a simple 2d6 roll, add them together, and then it's a little bit more basic on these charts. Same thing here. For tagging up, it could be that you try to take the extra base, but the result is a hold. So your player holds instead of continues toward the bag. And then these are like, if he goes, then these are the sort of values you can do. Stolen bases uses weighted stolen bases, which is a modern category. And then you subtract the battery, so the catcher's arm and the pitcher's holding rating, which I'm both using as RSB. So little r, capital S, capital B. And you can find that on Fangraphs. You can find that, I believe, on Baseball Reference as well. So pitchers get a hold rating for controlling the running game, and catchers get an arm rating for controlling the running game. That's both the same number. So you can add those together, and then you subtract it from the player's stolen bases. So obviously, if the catcher's arm and the pitcher's holding are very high, and the base runner's stolen bases number is very low, then that's going to be a negative number, which means he's going to have a much lower percentage to be able to be safe. So there's some not super complicated, but just some interesting things, and these are the same things, just broken out, not put on the same page. And then this is the other part is if you've been keeping up with Precision Baseball, you know that I've been going through and creating these sort of fielding charts for that game. And so this is a simplified version of those fielding charts. And basically, your infield depth at normal, you get a ground ball to shortstop. Then you would check here. You would check your base runner situation, and then you would roll against that base runner situation. If there's a question mark, then you would do a check for out or safe. So like 6 to 5, you would need to go to your extra bases chart and try to figure that out. So, and I'll just have to kind of keep playing with some of those things because it's not super clear, like what you would use. There's a double play rating, but outfielders have an arm rating, so it would have to be something different for the infielders. But it tells you, kind of what the special symbols mean. And then there's also one for infield in. Same thing, but obviously you only have select situations where you're going to be able to do something with the infield in. And then I started with fielding in the outfield. I don't know exactly how that's going to work necessarily. So that's, I'm just calling that the Strat clone. Again, this is what the cards look like. They look like this. And I played a couple of games using Mike Ignatowski's Green Fox score sheet. It's an Excel-based score sheet. And the games, they felt pretty good. I played Arizona and Atlanta, and the first two games were lopsided wins, one for each team, and then the third game was a pretty close one. There's still some fine-tuning that would need to happen with some of these numbers here just to kind of get them to the place they were. But basically, I used the same batter card and the same pitcher card for every player. So all the batters got the same batter card. All the pitchers used the same pitcher card. They weren't differentiated at all. So that's a game I'm working on and putting together. Excuse me. Uptempo. I am currently testing the 1978 or 7980 team. So you can see these are all the teams here. I'm playing the Lakers and the 76ers in the finals, and I'm 2 games in. The 76ers are down 0-2, and they haven't honestly been very close. So 76ers they keep turning the ball over and they just can't keep up. Honestly, they can't keep up with Kareem and Magic. And I don't know if that's how it was in real life. I was barely alive at that point, so I don't know. But it's been really cool to kind of play these old teams. But you can see I've got all the cards done. There's Rick Barry. But I got all these cards done and just need to test it a little bit just to make sure that the scoring is okay. Speaking of basketball, this is a basketball game that I've worked on and got a couple of games out there. If you've seen any of these being posted, these are score sheets for this game. But essentially, it's a dice basketball game. So I started just kind of with the basics of basic plays that you might see in a basketball game, and then how would you go about showing or displaying that? Kind of taking the same principles as on-base baseball or even a Stratomatic, and then bringing that into a play-by-play basketball game. So I went through I based a lot of this off of Mickey's Fast Break, which I know Rod Hess and the Tabletop Basketball YouTube channel, Tabletop Basketball Games, I think it's called. And he loves Mickey's Fast Break. And so I was like, well, let me dig into the game a little bit. They had shared the files. And so I looked and I did a little bit of breakdown of the game just to kind of see how they were breaking down each of the players and how the players got to where they needed to come from. And so kind of have a little bit of a, for each play, you have these different things. And then that's the same thing over here, right? So if you have a trigger player, you know what happens on a shot. You have a 2-point shot and what can happen, and a 3-point shot, what can happen. And so just breaking down Mickey's Fast Break just a little bit. And then going through some potential ways to put a game together. You know, I like, being able to call your offense or call a defense, and you're putting down a strategy card and that kind of thing, and then you roll to see who gets the ball. Then you would make a move, and then you check the defense. Does the defense respond, make a good play, and then you check the play outcome. And then different kinds of player grades, what you would do on different plays with key players. So just kind of try and think through how you would put a game like this together. And then I think at some point I just moved on. That's what this tab shows. And this has the basics of kind of what I did. This is really similar to what I do with On Base. So it's a 11 to 66 roll. For each roll, you have a particular thing that happens. It's an outcome that happens. And then for the outcome, you got to figure out which player is participating in that outcome, right? And there's a little bit of a narration here, kind of help you get into the game a little bit, so it's not just a rolling fest. And then that felt like a good idea, and so I went ahead and just did the very last season, 2022-23. Player data extras. Okay, these are I divided it up into the top 12 players for each team and all of the extras for each team. Just because you may not want to play every single player or have to print those out. Maybe you just want to play the top 12 players, and so you could do that. Then I went through and I figured out the shooting rolls, so the shooting percentages. I have a 2 to 12 for the shooting, and so we got to figure out the shooting percentages. So that's how this breaks down. A 2 to 5 is a 28% chance. 2 to 5 and a 12 is 31. 2 to 5 and 11 is 34. So you can see it's actually pretty granular. These are just like a generic table showing you each percentage. So 2.77% chance of rolling a 1 and a 1. Same thing of rolling a 6 and a 6. And then the greatest percentages are through the middle of rolling a 7. And so this is how you can figure out percentages of rolls. And then from there, I went on to create these clock cards, which the clock is always tricky in any game. How do you keep time? And so this is the clock. It's basically 60 possessions that you flip a card for each possession. So there's not a traditional clock where you subtract an X amount of time off the clock. And then I created these cards, which you can see this is, Atlanta here. And basically, for your 2-point shots, that's our shooting percentage that we had here. So these shooting percentages here, I just tried to match it up with the players here. So his 2-point percentage is pretty close to this, 2 to 6 and a 9. And same thing with the 3-point free throw percentages. All the players are graded out based off of these attributes. And these attributes are 2-point attempts and 3-point attempts and number of blocks and number of steals, not their place. It's not 2-point percentage. is 2 point. How many attempts did they make? Because really what I'm trying to do with these is funnel the basketball into the hands of the people who took the most shots. So I want, if DeJounte Murray took more 2-pointers than anybody on the team, or these two guys, I want them to have more opportunities to shoot 2-pointers. I don't want them to have the equal opportunity of these two guys who didn't take as many, right? And I certainly don't want them to have the opportunity of these two guys who really didn't take as many shots. So we want to try to funnel the ball to the right people, and it's one way of trying to manipulate the stats, if to be honest. But manipulating the stats is kind of what we do with these games. That's how you get people into performing kind of like they did. And then these are just their basic, actually it's per 100 possession averages. It's not even per game averages. So those are the cards that you use. Again, I divided up into the top 12 and the extras. So these are the Atlanta Hawk extra players. They didn't play very many games. So you could use them if you wanted to, but you don't have to. And then we have the charts here. So it's an 11 to 66 roll. If you roll an 11, it's an offensive foul, and then you roll a d10, and you find out who the foul is on. Now, if the foul is a 10, then you assign the foul to the lowest, the player with the lowest amount of fouls. And so that helps to even things out. Same thing here. If it's a steal, then you look at the highest rated player, and if the team has a guy that has an A steal, again with his, we come back here, so you look at his steals number, and so if all these guys are on the floor together, and these are really 4 of your starting 5, then DeJounte Murray would get the steal because he has the highest, he has the A. Now if he's off the floor and it's these 3 guys on the floor, then it would be Trae Young. So you're just looking at the highest rated person on the floor for that particular result. So that goes through. I've got some videos and things like that of showing how to think about that game, and I'll be doing more with that later. This is a split chart that splits it into 2 pages, 2 vertical pages, which allows you to have a bigger print size. And that's pretty much it for that game. That game is still in process. I created a little application for it that you can see here. If I refresh that, you can see we have our 60 cards for our possessions. All right, so you can see here if this is the application as it's set up. You can add points here. So you add 2, add 3 for the home team. It's pretty manual. There's some things that are automated. So if you click here on any of these, you will get a new roll. So you get 2 D6s. So this will be for the chart. Basically these numbers here. And then this is going to be your D10. And your D10 would cover this part here, at least on the first roll. So it tells you that 1 possession is taken off, that it goes automatically. This will switch automatically as you work your way through the cards. And you can see that it's a 2-point shot at 26, and so it equals what's here. 26 is a 2-point shot, a drive to the baseline, roll for the player to take the shot. So then you have your players that can take the shot here. So that's going to be here. That's listed here. Same thing. So use your 3. It's the center with a drive to the baseline for a 2-point shot. Then you need to check for the shot. And to check for the shot, you need to look at the player card. What do I do with the cards? Let's say it is DeJounte Murray. His 2-point shot, or actually who's the center? Clint Capella. Capella, he is a 2 to 7 or a 10 for a make. So if he rolls a 2 to 7 or 10, then that's going to be a make. And so to get a new roll without turning the possession, you just click here and it gives you a new roll. Everything else stays the same. And then you can see here that it's a 2 and a 3, which is a 5. So that's between 2 and 7. It's between 2 and 7. So that means that that is a good basket, and you would add a bucket. And then when you click here again, you take another possession off. Now we're down to 58 possessions left in the first quarter. And for the other team, it would be a 2-point jumper taken by the point guard on the free throw line. And then again, you would roll to see if it's good or not. If it's a miss, you can use this number to find the rebound. So you look at the top line first for the defensive rebound. It would be to the small forward. If it was a 10, then that means it's an offensive rebound, and you need to roll again. And then you would look to see who got the offensive rebound. If it's a make, then you would simply, on your second roll, you would look and see who got the assist. It would be assist to the shooting guard. So that is how the application works. And basically, when you get all the way to the end, it will, well, I'm not going to show you, but it says end of quarter. You flip it, and then it goes to the second quarter. But basically, you get every time you click here, you get a new fresh possession, right? And it's just it's always in line with the game chart here. So it's just basically showing you the game chart online. So it's a really nice little thing. It's mobile first, so it looks good on a mobile device, and it's optimized for every type of device. So as you get out to like a larger screen, or if you're looking on an iPad, things are not going to be so wonky or out of whack. So so that's a fun game that I've been working on. To me, that game feels really good too. It's in a good spot. It's free. You can download the entire 2022-23 basketball season, NBA season, and play along. You can use this app. This app is here at this URL. It's live, and you can play with it and mess with it. You can download the files at the Clark and Addison Gaming Company Facebook group. It's also on the tabletop basketball games, or tabletop hoops games, tabletop hoops, basketball board games, tabletop basketball board games. I can't remember. It's Rod Hess's group. You can download them there, and also there's another Facebook group where I've actually put the files. It's a zip file. Just download it all. It has all the players. It has all the charts. And then it has a game guide that I've also written for it. And you can also go here and play with this. Couple more games, a few more. This is a dice-based football game that I've been working on called Dice Football. Basically, it's taking very similar concepts. Why can't we just use those similar concepts to on-base baseball in a football game? So these are just sort of generic. They're not team rated or player rated or anything like that, but you can play kind of a generic game. An 11 to 66 roll, lowest number first, and then whatever the result is here, whether it's a pass or a rush, then you can, I do have team cards. So you roll first to see, is it a pass or is it a rush? And then let's say it's a 25. So you roll a 25 for the Bills. That's going to be a passing play, and then you roll the 2d6s, and then you roll, let's see, it's a 33. And it's going to be an incomplete pass. If it was a rush play, then you run here. If it is I can't remember how you determine the defense. Oh, yeah, I can't remember how you determine the defense. I'd have to go back and look. The yellow means you can roll again for the yak rack yards, so you're eligible to get some extra yardage there. You have penalties here. everything you need: onside kicks, kickoffs and kick returns, extra points, field goals, punt returns, punting, and then there's a Hail Mary. So a 66 is completed for a TD. There's a fourth and short chart, which was suggested by someone who play tested it, so that was cool. So in fourth and short, I think it's fourth and like 3 or less or something like that. Then you can run a short yardage play. It'd be like a quarterback sneak or something like that. And then if there's a fumble or interception. So super basic game. All the teams from 2022 in the NFL have been rated. And you can see there's a bit of a player finder on here. So you can, if it's a pass to the tight end, which you are told on the pass plays, right? So play action pass to the tight end for 10 yards. Then you would roll 1d10. If it's a 1 to 8, it's Travis Kelce. If it's a 9 or 10, it's Noah Gray. So you do get a little bit of a player finder here. There's no defensive player finder, which is a limitation. And just hopefully people will play this and kind of check it out and see what can be added, what should be added. Is it even worth my time? But you can see here I've ranked all of the teams based off of pass interceptions and passing yards per attempt, pass TDs, and then come out with a sort of overall ranking for each team. And then the lowest, the ones with the lowest rankings are the ones technically that are highest rated with the lowest number. And then they're going to get like a special defensive rating of a 2, and then others will get a 1, and then everybody else is like a 0. So that is called Dice Football, which is a fun one. This one I haven't showed maybe to one other person, but it's basically based off of my quick play baseball concept, where you're using trying to create a very small footprint to create a game that can be used with the card deck. So basically, you have your play calling. It's very similar. It's kind of a stripped down version of what no huddle football is now. So you have sort of your plays, and you figure out the play, and then if it's a big play, you have your chart here: field goals, kickoffs, punts, what to do on penalties, and then if it's a fumble or a sack or kick block or after a turnover, what do you do on a fumble or an interception? So basically the idea is that this would be a piece of paper that could be folded the size of a deck of cards, and then you would be able to put that inside the card tuck box and take that with you, just like you can with quick play baseball. So again, I've gone through and rated all of these teams with adjustments and things like that. So beginning to kind of flesh out what would it look like to have team cards or to have a team sheet or whatever that's going to look like. So I just have all this team data all compiled so you can see any adjustments that people need to make on rushing or defensive plays. If you're familiar with quick play baseball, then you can make those adjustments up or down, because all the best plays are the ace, and all the worst plays for the offense are at the 2. So you can adjust those up and down based off of the team. So again, very similar to no huddle, but a game in progress. And then the last one, I played it on the channel. I think I played it as a video, but I'm just calling this like basic basketball game. Again, trying to take some of the concepts of like a super basic dice rolling game, and then applying those to a basketball game. So you have a sort of a 2 to 12 for determining what kind of shot. This is very similar to, it's got some bones and some hints of like an easier version of triple threat basketball. So you'll see some of these kind of feel the same. Um, and basically, I was just, creating a shot chart, and then I have plays. Somebody had said, well, what I wish I could do with a basketball game is to choose which plays that I can run. And I thought that's an interesting concept to be able to choose your plays, because we don't think about it much in basketball, but they actually have offensive plays that they run. And why do they have them? They have them so that they can get the ball to certain guys in certain places or advantages and things like that. So um, I thought, well, how can we bring that concept into a basketball game? And so I came up with these different plays. So basically you would roll first for one of these plays. So you roll a d6 and it would tell you which play, or you could call your own if you wanted to. And then after that you roll a d10 to see which player is the one who's sort of targeted on this play. Now even on a roll of 1 to 10, your average rolls are going to fall in 4, 5, and 6. So if you rolled it 10 times, your average rolls are going to, the average is like 5.5 or something like that. So it's going to fall in this area here, even though they technically all have the same probability of being rolled. They don't, in reality, often these middle three are the ones that get the most rolls. So on a pick and roll, on this one, you're really targeting your point guard and your center. On the 3-point offense, you're really targeting your shooting guard and your small forward and the spot up. And the low post offense is targeting your center or your power forward. And so you kind of, in yellow, have, these are the players that we want to try to get the ball to, so we're going to run this play. Doesn't mean they're going to get the ball, because it could be up here. It could be whatever. But these are the guys who are going to try to get the ball on my team. I know they're the best shooters, or I know they're the best 3-point shooters, or whatever. And then you roll a 2 to 12 to see what is the result of that play. So again, 6, 7, and 8 on a roll of 2 to 12. You're just basically rolling 2d6 and adding them together. So on a roll like that, 6, 7, and 8 is always going to be the most probable. And so these are going to be the results that you're going to get out of that. You're going to get a drive or a jumper. In the motion offense, you're going to kind of get a varied group of all of those plays. In the ISO game, you're going to get a drive to the basket more than likely, or a jump shot. In the spot up game, you're going to get a jump shot or a 3, most likely. And so you really can sort of fashion your offense to be what you need it to be in the moment. Do you need to play catch up? Then you need to start shooting threes. And the 3-point offense, or even this one here, the spot up offense, because the 7 is the most common. So you can choose who gets the ball, how likely it is for them to get a particular kind of shot. Do you need to get people in foul trouble? And you want to run the ISO game and try to drive to the basket and get them in foul trouble, because when you look here on a drive, it's a higher percentage to get a shooting foul than on a jumper. So you only have to roll a 4 to get a shooting foul. And then actually there's a 10, and then over here it's an 11 and a 3, so the opportunity for a shooting foul is lower here. So it's just it's like a game of really including some strategy into basketball. And then for assists, we're using a similar concept that I'm using with the dice basketball game I just showed, where you're trying to funnel the assists to the right players. You're trying to get the assist to the guys who had the most of something. And these are the cards for it. So you can see that you would, off of this play chart, let's say it's the shooting guard taking a 3-pointer, then you look at the shooting guard on the floor, DeJounte Murray, and then he's got a jumper. So now you would roll against this 2 to 12. And so whatever it is, he would get that that role. You can see just his numbers down here, but these are the percentages that you play off. It's very similar to triple threat when you get to the card. 3-point shots, free throws, drives to the basket. And so can't remember. Those are the old cards. Let's see if I can pull up the new cards. Okay, these are the newest cards with no photo at the top or anything, but they're listed. So A2 would be sort of a second tier of the best assist men in basketball. S2 would be sort of the second tier of people who were with the steals. A1 would be the top tier of assist men in the NBA. And there are also R for rebound. So A assists, R rebounds, S steals. This is their defensive number. So again, you would move up and down. So if you were shooting against Okongwu and you rolled an 8, it would become a 7. So you can see that would take you from a three-pointer that's good to a three-pointer that's missed. So a little bit of defensive ability in here for these guys. And not sure what else I was doing here. Probably trying something new out with a copy of these cards. So that was a fun. I thought it was an interesting game. And then you would just use like a clock like this, a possessions clock, and that might need to be 50 possessions. I'm not sure. But I have a couple of videos on this YouTube channel about that game. So if you want to check it out, you can check it out and see more about it. It's called, I don't remember if I gave it a name for anything. It was like a first look video. But you can see that this is, we have for steals, rebounds, and assists, and kind of a player finder. But it's not based solely off of their position. It's based off of how many, trying to get the number of assists and rebounds and stuff over to the right players. So very similar concepts with all the games that I'm doing. I don't know which one of these games will finally come out on top or not. But these are the kind of concepts that I'm working through all the time. So not only am I producing the seasons that you see, but I'm always kind of coming up with new concepts of, like, can we take this idea and can we put it over here in this context? If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments section. I'd be happy to get to them here. If you want to email me, you can email me at clarkandaddisongaming@gmail.com. Clark and A-N-D, Addison, A-D-D-I-S-O-N, I believe. Yes, one S. So clarkandaddisongaming@gmail.com. So I guess I got all of that. Like that. So clarkandaddisongaming@gmail.com. You can also visit clarkandaddisongaming.com. This is a website here. Learn more about No Huddle Football. You can see some of the new releases here. Learn a little bit more about us. This is the website. And when you click Shop All Games, you can actually whittle it down to the different games. You can look at everything, or you can use these filters over here if you just want to learn about quick play baseball or see quick play seasons. You can look that up here. Or if you just want to know, you just want to look at Uptempo basketball seasons, then you can click here and then you can get all those seasons here. So pretty easy site to navigate. And if you have any questions, feel free to click on contact and I'll get an email whenever you fill in this information here. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, click subscribe. I promise you not every video is this long, but I just wanted to make sure, especially at the top of the year, I guess, just kind of letting people know what I'm working on and what's coming up, what's in front of my face, what am I doing. Sometimes people say, well, I wish you had finished the games you're doing. Well, I finished them and I released them for people to play, and then there's a process of kind of whittling. Is the game, do people care about it? Do they want to help? Um, Sometimes games get lost. Sometimes people come back and they're like, hey, whatever happened to that game? And I think, you know what did happen to that game? And so I go back and I think, that's actually a really good one. And so sometimes just letting it marinate and linger will actually help it get better when I go back to it. And when I release a game for sale, it's finished. So there are some different things that I will do to upgrade it if necessary, but I'm hoping to do as many things as possible to the game before I release it for sale, which I think is most people, who make a product want to do that. But the more feedback I get, the more comfortable I feel releasing a game for sale. So if you want to be a part of that feedback loop, just pay attention on Facebook or here on YouTube. And if you see a game that you like, just say, hey, I'd love to try that. Uh, if you have a demo, or can you send me a couple of teams? Because usually by the time I get it to the place where I'm showing it on YouTube or posting something about it online, it's ready to play. It may not be ready to sell, but it is ready to play. So if you see something, excuse me, that I'm working on that you like, just feel free to shoot me an email. You can use this contact form here, or you can send me an email to the one that I listed before, and then just we can work through it, play it, tell me what you think, like what could be better about it, uh, what can be what needs to be scrapped, or is this better like in a different sport or something like that. So I'm really open to whatever people have. I just really want to be able to join with the community to create a game that the community wants more than me just thinking this is what I want. If you make something and nobody plays it, that seems like a waste of time. But if you make something that people play and you can all kind of get in on it together, then that seems like a better use of time in the middle of my life when I'm not retired or anything like that. I have a middle-aged family, so um, I want to be able to spend my time valuably. And to me, showing you all these things is a valuable spending of my time. But hopefully it's valuable to yours too. I know this video is pretty long, but if you have any questions or comments, leave them down in the comments section below. Click subscribe if you haven't already, and get more great content over the next year. We'll be ramping up toward baseball season in the next 6 weeks, and hopefully, new things to put out for that. New baseball stuff. There'll be a pre-play for on-base baseball for 2024. So be looking for that in the next couple months, probably around spring training. That'll come out and you can pre-play the season. So that'd be really cool, just like last year. And then, yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Give it a like, give it a thumbs up, share it with somebody that you know. And if you want to join the Facebook group, I'll put a link down the comment section, and you can, or in the description, and then you can go to the Facebook group, answer a couple questions, and then you'll be in there and be able to get more content like this sooner than everybody else. Sometimes I'll put this out everywhere, but a lot of times it'll go there first, and so you'll have kind of first rights to know what's going on with me and my games and the different games if you're playing any of them. All right, I think that's it from here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next time.